So another idea. No, excuse me. I'll crop this out. We do a lot of editing.
Okay.
We've got Kim back in for more videos. We did a little agent replacement, so we gave Jessica Faust the boot. We brought in Kim, and today we're going to talk about a blog post Jessica did a while ago. Well, not a while ago. It was last year. On the top 10, a while ago. On the top 10 reasons why BookEnds rejected a query.
Okay.
So I'm going to give the reasons. Kim is going to give the background info. And there you have it, folks. So the number one reason is an overdone concept. A book, a hook, or an idea that we've seen a million times in our inbox.
Yeah. Well, I think some of the examples that Jessica gave on the blog were like cloning Jesus, which was one we used to see a lot. I haven't seen it as much recently. I did. There was like a while actually last year where I was seeing more of them, but I think people think it's a new thing, but it's actually been in our inboxes a lot. And another one that I always see, which isn't really a hook, which I think is part of the problem, is there's a lot of women's fiction that I get about women whose husbands have cheated on them and they're getting a divorce and now they have to go find themselves. That's like a lot of the women's fiction I see in my box. And I think having that as background is
what if you
fine.
put those ideas together?
Well, that is the
about
one
a
idea.
woman's fiction.
Yeah.
About
cloning Jesus.
Yes.
I haven't seen that yet, but I'm not saying I want to.
Okay.
But I think it's fine if there's backstory of a woman who's divorced because her husband cheated on her, but there has to be, that's not the hook. And it's really not original. So so you need something else to sort of set apart. Set
yourself apart.
Yeah.
So another reason why your query might be rejected is that you spend so much time talking about yourself and your author bio that you don't talk about your book. Yeah.
Really, if you've never been published before and this is your debut, then really you don't have to put, especially for fiction. It's different for nonfiction, but for fiction, you can say if you're part of a critique group or a professional writers group like RWA, but most of the time you really don't have to say very much about yourself. Especially also I get a lot of explanation of the process of writing the book, and sometimes they'll say, well, I've been writing this book for 7 years.
Sometimes that's incriminating.
And I think from the author's perspective, it's like, oh, look at how much time and effort I've put into this great book. But from our perspective, it means, A, why haven't you sold it yet? And B, I'm not going to be able to build much of a career for you if you can only write a book every 7 years. So
we're looking at you, George R.R. Martin.
So, well, he built a good career.
yeah, but fair.
So yeah, you could pretty much limit that. Now, if you're a nonfiction writer, you have to show you have a platform, that you have knowledge, but also that you already have a sort of audience through a blog or speaking engagements or podcast or whatever. So it definitely becomes a lot more important.
Yeah, for nonfiction, you're part of the sales pitch.
Yeah, you're a big part of it.
Yeah.
But for fiction, you should really keep it to a minimum.
So the flip side of this is actually reason number 3 we might reject you, and that's when your query is a huge synopsis of the book and not a concise query letter pitch of your book. Yeah,
if your blurb for your book is too long, we're going to lose interest, and we really just want to know the hook, so what the big plot point is, and also a little bit about the character. But you should think about it like cover copy on the back of a book, and just really trying to get the editor or agent interested, not tell them we don't want the whole story, just enough to intrigue us to want to read more.
The whole story.
Yeah.
So reason number 4 is something that we tend to get a lot, especially with Query Manager, is when the authors try to sneak their query through.
Right.
When they are clearly not writing mystery, but they're passing their book along as mystery. And it happens a lot more with YA. when someone's like, here is my mystery book, and then they put it through for an agent who's not accepting mystery as young adult mystery.
Right. Or like trying to put science fiction under women's fiction. Yeah, that doesn't work because you can't really trick us. We
know what it is.
We know our genres pretty well by now.
Yeah, and you're just gonna automatically get rejected if it's not something the agent's looking for. They're not gonna you're not gonna sneak it past them, and then the agent's not gonna realize it's sci-fi fantasy and be so intrigued.
But plus, it backfires because it looks like you don't know who your audience is, that you don't understand what a genre is, and I would say just it's not. Specific, but just in general, I think the number one reason I reject a query is because the writer shows that they don't understand who their audience is and who they're writing the book for. So if you don't know what genre, or if you put it under the wrong genre, then you clearly don't know who you're writing for.
So reason number 5 sort of goes along with reason number 3, but it's that you spend your entire query talking about themes and background, character backgrounds, that you're not giving us a sense of the plot. Yeah.
Again, you really want to stick to the hook of the book and what makes it different in terms of the story. I see this a lot with YA writers really kind of harp on theme when they're pitching their book. And I do think themes are important in YA, but there's only so many themes, really, you know? So it's hard to make your book sound different if you're relying solely on the theme and not on the real story. And it's actually one of my pet peeves, I think. Oh, no. Like, focusing on theme, I don't know. It drives me kind of crazy because I just tell me what the book is about. So yeah, I particularly don't like theme heavy queries.
Reason number 6 is that you've already self-published the book. Why might that lead to a rejection?
Publishers don't want to take on books that have already been made available to the public. They want to be able to put something out there that feels fresh and new and like they discovered it. So if your book has already been out there, unless you have like major sales, like thousands of copies sold, which doesn't really happen very much, especially rare now in self-published books, then it's going to be very hard for an agent to sell your work to a traditional publisher. So instead of trying to sell that book, you should really start writing your next one. Don't self-publish it, and then go to agents with that query.
So reason number 7 is one that sort of drives me nuts, and we've actually already done a video on it, so I can link the video below for you guys.
Huh? I didn't see that one. Okay.
Maybe we didn't post it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Pretty sure we did one. Word counts.
I think every agent there's varying degrees of how much you pay attention to the word count in a query. Nuts.
Well, there's nothing crazier than when you get like a YA that's like, oh, that actually has a cool plot, and it's 30,000 words.
Right.
So if your word counts are completely off, it's a little troubling.
Like,
or if your word count is too high.
Doesn't pay as much attention to word count as I do sometimes, but I think it depends too. If it's like close but no cigar.
But it also, especially in YA, it's a little troubling to see a YA fantasy that's 150 or 60,000 words because it's then you know that there's so much that has to be cut down in world building, or something's too expansive, or it's maybe 2 books lodged into one, that it's going to be a lot of work.
Well, that's another red flag for me. What? If they say, if it's like a 200,000 word book, and then they say, but it could actually be 2 books. Should we just cut this part?
Yeah. There you have it.
So, it's a 200,000 word book, but actually it could be 2 books. I'm like, well, if you knew that the story, you should be telling the story in such a way that it was definitively one book and a part
it's
of a series.
It's really hard to make a book compelling at 200,000 words.
Yeah.
Like, eventually you're hitting lulls. And
giving me multiple choice and saying like, oh, it could actually be 2 books. It's not. That doesn't work in your favor.
It's not a choose your own adventure book.
No.
Okay. Number 8 is that the plot is overdone or just doesn't sound special. So it kind of goes back to number 1, but on a more expansive part of the plot.
It can be tricky because it feels like everything's already been done, but there's always your own unique spin that you can put on it.
Right. This would probably be the number 1 reason, though. Like, a query pitch just doesn't get the agent. It doesn't stand out to them, and that's why they're not going for it. But number 9 is one that I'm sure many romance agents despise, and that is putting down the genre.
Yeah. Yeah, because romance people hear it more than
that romance is terrible, and this query is the savior of romance books.
Right. This isn't a romance. This is better than a romance.
Yeah.
And then you're just offending not only our clients, but us. So it's a general rule of thumb, don't offend the agent in your query.
It's not that hard. Last reason is that you show no understanding of the genre and what makes it work. What can you expand on that? How would an agent get that from a query letter?
Well, something that I always like to see in queries are comp titles. But if your comp titles don't sound anything like the book you're actually pitching, or if you have like 2 comp titles that are wildly different, then like saying, oh, it's The Kiss Quotient and Divergent or something, like 2 different genres, or
that'd be a strange
or
book.
Whatever. But again, like I said, it's always like I always look to see, does the author know who their audience is? And I think a lot of times it means you have to be somewhat well read yourself, that you've read up on books that are going to appeal to the same reader as your book, and you know what's selling in the market right now. So yeah, comp titles is a big one for showing either how savvy you are about the market or not so.
Yeah, and I think really every reason so far kind of goes into showing that.
Yeah.
So if any of these or multiple of these kind of give us pause, then that's really contributing to number 10, and you're just not sold on the author and the book itself.
Right.
All right. Do you have any other reasons why you might reject a query?
Well, I mean, there's probably a million.
You're not just trying to clear out your inbox?
I mean, I do. I mean, I think I think that's actually good. Every agent or editor is looking to get something off of their desk, and you have to give them a reason not to. So by making it concise and exciting and different and unique, and showing that you know why this book would sell right now because of the comp titles or whatever, I think you have to do all of those things, so that I don't just automatically reject you, because we only have so many hours in our day. We want to find a reason to reject it, so don't give us a reason.
There you have it. Stay tuned for next week, when we'll be doing top 10 reasons why BookEnds rejected your submission with Kim Lionetti.
See you then. I'll be wearing the same thing.